How are you prioritizing when your team should become an expert in a given kind of tool or particular tool set versus just knowledgeable and well-informed? Because there's a very big difference between being knowledgeable about what a DMP is and what the differences might be between those that are on the market, and expert in how to best leverage a specific tool set for the goals of the campaign that's at large. Angelina?
Yeah. So I think right now, and looking collectively at a lot of the different ad operations on the agency side, there's still a relatively large learning curve regarding knowledge about those platforms and how they actually interplay with one another. However, I think that at the same time, there's an accelerated need for them to become experts in those platforms. And I think the success relies for an agency to be not only knowledgeable, but intimately knowledgeable about the capabilities of each platform, how they work together, and really, again, I go back to how to connect the pipes. So rather than just executing campaigns, the people that are working in the ad operations really also need to be data scientists at the same time. So understanding attribution, understanding cross-device, how things are measured, how to actually collect the data so that the outputs generated can be used by both the media teams, the publisher side, as well as with our analytics team.
Is the same hold true in your organization?
It does. We have an ad ops leader who's in attendance today, Heather Keltz, who has a large team of folks that have both a general knowledge of how the entire sales support workflow operates, but each has a very specific, deep domain expertise in their part of the workflow. So there are folks that are trained to be expert at pre-sales functions, and there are several of those. There are folks that are expert at post-sales functions. Mm-hmm. There are folks that are expert at supervising both sets of activities. Heather, to her credit, conducted a large experiment for most of this year where she essentially tested the concept. If we have 7 different types of specialists in our workflow to service our clients, is it possible that we could instead have one person trained to do every one of those functions? We started with 3 of them, because it was an ambitious initiative, an ambitious pilot test, where she took half the staff and made them generalists, cover 3 of the 7 functions. And what we found after a very deliberate testing period was that the specialization seemed to work better. So we're changing the supervisory structure to reflect the need for end-to-end ownership, pre and post, so that a client can go to a single person who helps sell the campaign through and has accountability for fulfilling it. But the actual folks that work on the various systems can become expert in their given system, whether that's DFP or Fat Tail or some other aspect of ad serving.
And when it comes to building that expertise, who are your go-to assets and resources? Are you leveraging the technology providers themselves, or are you using efforts in-house to really create a learning and development arm that gives your teams that ability to gain expertise?
For us at Merkle, we have, with every single one of our platform partners that we engage with, they have office hours in our that they come once or twice a month. And they're there to not only educate the buying team, but also my platforms group. I think one of the challenges, I have a very small platform solutions group, and I would say that having them expand their capabilities outside of just ad operations or trafficking, if you will, has been a little bit of a challenge, because we are so, our day-to-day is so involved in executing campaigns and troubleshooting that also learning platforms and consulting is a challenge. So we have to rely on our platform partners to be able to educate our buyers on what is possible and what is not, And then it's up to our senior leadership team to have those relationships with the vendors on a very one-to-one in terms of workflow, process, and data ingestion.
Got it. And on the, you mentioned pre-sale and post-sale.
Yes.
And post-sale, to me, I immediately think of the analytics, the attribution, sort of ROI-driven data
Right.
coming out of that. Would you say that your ad operations groups are as involved in the upflow process of decision-making to ensure that things get set up and created in the right way so that you can drive the ROI or attribution results that the buyer's looking for, whether that's at the agency end to set it up in a way that lets you do that, or even on the publisher end where you know you're being judged not just on impressions, but something else? Have you been able to, and how have you been able to get your teams farther upstream in the process? So that
We demand it.
You demand it. And does that work?
Yes and no. I would say in order for any group to succeed on the agency side, collaboration is the #1 important key element. And without that, that's when issues arise. That's when errors occur. That's when you get a phone call saying, why am I not able to analyze the data because something happened in the execution where there was no communication. You know, having creative at the last minute, rushing to implement campaigns, that causes friction. That causes the likelihood of errors occurring. So having to be upstream in the process of, you know, even just when a brief comes in, what exactly are the objectives? What are we trying to measure? Who are we targeting? Why are we targeting them? And what can we do about it? That consultation needs to occur. Oftentimes it does not, and so the operations team needs to interject themselves proactively in those conversations.